Hi, this is Jeff Willinger, Jay Willie on Twitter, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here at the European SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure Conference. And we have a special guest today, which we'll get to in a moment. Special. He is special.
In quotes.
But this is the happy hour version of our interview. So cheers to my special guest, Scott Hanselman. And Scott, we're going to play like a fun little drinking game as we're doing this interview.
All right.
Every time I say the word SharePoint or Yammer, we have to take a drink. Does that sound like fun?
I will drink twice on Yammer.
Right. Cheers to that. You know, Scott,
Breakfast
I've been
champions.
a fan of yours. First of all, tell everybody who you are and not necessarily why you're here in beautiful Prague.
Okay. My name is Scott Hanselman. You can go out there and Google with Bing for Scott. Somewhere on the first 20 pages, you'll find me up there with Scott Toilet Paper. My name is Scott Hanselman. I've been on the internet for many, many years. I've been blogging for 17, 18, 19 years. I podcast at hanselminutes.com. 712 episodes.
Wow.
Every Thursday for 712 divided by 52, 14 years.
Maybe I could, if you need
just
some
saying,
extra
I'm
content,
just
and you're
saying.
on my show, maybe I could be on your
As
show.
my quality continues to slip, I will be sure to invite you on.
Thank you. When it really
Somewhere
hits rock
when
bottom.
this is about here, you'll be primed and ready for the show.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Do you guys do you ever talk about SharePoint?
We have not, but I understand that some exciting things are happening in the SharePoint world, SharePoint universe.
Yes.
I've had 6 or 7 of these myself today, so I think we're going to get along just fine. Strange people.
Strangers, yes.
Some edgy drifter has just come by.
So, Scott, you know, I've been a fan of yours, believe it or not, for actually quite some time. I saw you speak about 5 years ago, probably on episode maybe 200. How long have you been doing your podcast?
14 years.
14 years. So you were
5
probably
years
halfway.
ago would be,
No, it's probably 7 years ago because I think you were halfway into your career as a podcaster. And the one thing that I always admired about you, besides your pizzazz and your devilish good looks,
sparkle fingers,
was I always considered you like a life hack.
Oh.
And when I think about a life hack, I think about guys or women that could get stuff done expeditiously, faster, more productive.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd focus our conversation today on how do we get more out of less? You know, organizations out there, especially here at ESPC 19, they're doing more with less. So what are some things that you've been up to that could help our audience with their sort of being more productive?
Well, so there's this joke that people always say that Beyonce has the same number of hours as you do. But unfortunately, she also has like a glam squad and an assistant and a bunch of other stuff, and probably her own SharePoint instance that she maintains herself in her spare time.
SharePoint.
But, touche. But what I have been trying to do, and I'm by no means an expert, but I've been trying to do this for many, many years, is have a level of intentionality, or what is called deliberate practice. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're more productive. It's just that you're not letting the defaults happen, right? You know, you ever have that sense of there's a person at work who seems to have time to binge watch the latest whatever on Netflix, but they're just not shipping the thing that you need them to ship? I'm not saying don't work double time, but I'm saying be deliberate. There's a lot of things that are happening right now in the science of workspace where people are saying, maybe we could get our work done in 4 hours. Well, it turns out we're really just goofing around at work for a lot of time. So what if you sat down? Here's a thing for you to try. Here's some homework. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. I want you to go to work on Monday, wherever you work, and don't check your email until after lunch. And what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself staring at a computer. You're like, I don't even know what I do here, right?
Except check email.
Exactly, because checking email is the easiest way to teleport and time travel into the afternoon, right? Then you have a long lunch, then it's 3:30, and then it's like, well, I'm just starting to get my feet underneath me. Now I got to go home.
Oh, yeah, time to go.
Right?
Right.
Think about 3 things that you can get done today, 3 things you can get done this week, and then organize everything around that where email, unless your job is email, and then if it is, do your email.
Right.
But deliberate practice, schedule sprints. You ever do the Pomodoro Technique? Are you familiar with that?
Pomodoro Technique.
Okay. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, I think. I don't know.
Okay. I know
let's just say it
Pomodoro
is.
and tomatoes definitely go together.
Okay. So the Pomodoro is this cute little tomato-shaped plastic egg timer. And you turn it and it goes to 25 minutes. So a Pomodoro is now a unit of time.
Okay.
So if you look at a project and you're like, it's going to take me about 2.5 hours to do that project, that's 5 Pomodoros.
So you're taking the
timer and you turn the egg timer to 25, 5 minutes to pee.
Sure.
That's why it's not a 30-minute timer. So you turn it to 25 and you sprint and you do one thing for 25 minutes. Then you take a break, do whatever, and then you do it again. So that's 5 sprints.
I love the idea of a timer. I like the idea of a 25-minute timer.
Intentionally.
I love that. Then you take a break.
Yep. Most people...
Was this a Tim Ferriss technique or a Hansel minute?
No, this is long before Ferriss. This is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is Stephen Covey. The Pomodoro Technique is another gentleman. There's a lot of people who've been thinking about those things. And if you go out and you Google for Hanselman productivity tips, I've got a number of videos where I've synthesized all of those people's work into a technique that works for me, as you should do for you. If you don't like any one of these tips, just don't do that tip,
Right.
That's the great thing about advice is you don't have to take it.
Right.
Okay? But most people cannot sit and do one thing for 25 minutes. There's no focus
Absolutely
anymore.
correct.
So
I
you
believe
gotta
that.
exercise.
We live in a day where we are distracted big time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but my phone isn't even anywhere near me. I even took off my watch for our interview so I wouldn't get distracted.
So that's an intentional thing. That is called deliberate practice. When you sat down for this, you thought about, hang on, let me check my text messages, right? You can't do that when you're doing something like this.
Right.
Smart. So deliberate practice is a big part of what I try to do.
I love the deliberate practice, and I am literally going to buy that timer on Amazon.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. You can do that. You can get a Pomodoro. There's Pomodoro apps. Pomodoro apps for the phone that
Really?
look like it for like $1. You can just use any egg timer, but it's having it there and noticing that you're only going to have this much time. Here's another example of being really deliberate. I'm in Europe, and my kids had their birthdays last week. They're 12 and 14. There's 52 weeks in a year. Every week that I'm gone is 2% of my kids' year. So while I'm here, I'm doing 11 talks in 4 countries, and I'll be home for lunch on Saturday. I didn't come to walk the cobblestones. My family's not here.
You're not missing anything.
I get in. You ever see the movie In Bruges with Colin Farrell? He's an Irish guy, and he's an assassin. And he's gone into Bruges in Belgium, this little tiny town in Belgium, and he hates it. He just wants to get in. He's going to get in, he's going to kill the guy, and he's going to get out of Bruges. That's his whole entire thing. I'm the same way. I come in, I kill the guy, and I get out of town. So here, I come in, I do the job, and I go home as fast as I can, and I hang out with my kids, because that's what I value. You might value your kids, you might value your exercise, or your Netflixing, or whatever,
Right.
but as long as you decide what are you going to care about, and then optimize everything around that goal. Most people just let their lives happen by default. They go, oh, where did the time go? If only I had another 2 hours a day.
Yeah, I haven't said that in a long time because I am intentional. I am crazy time management guy.
Love
in fact, when I asked you to speak today, I don't know if you remember, I told you the exact time that I wanted you here, and you were spot on. Everyone, all the camera people were looking at me like, Hanselman's not going to show up. I said, he is going to show up. And when you did, they all gave me the high five. You're like, wow, Jeff,
Well,
you did work some type of miracle.
I've got in my bag right here my trusty iPad, and if I bring it out here and open up my, got to do the little Face ID. Hello. Do a little pose. I've got this little notebook that I've got. This is my script for my talk that I just gave. And in this notebook is, in fact, a swim lane of where I'm going to be, what talks I'm going to give, how I move from place to place. It could have been done in Excel, it could have been done in Outlook, but it made me feel comfortable syncing to paper effectively. This is like digital paper.
Right.
And when I found a block of 4 hours, I said, that's a waste of time. What am I going to do with that 4 hours right there? I made a couple of calls, and I'm going to do an extra user group in Latvia on Friday.
There you go. The extra user group in Latvia.
And it costs me nothing because I'm going to be there anyway.
Right.
That's great. I love that you're intentional as well.
You know, Scott, a lot of people try to get more out of the day. Talk to me a little bit about getting more out of your day on the enterprise. What are some tips at work? I mean, yes, you could use the egg timer at work, the Pomodoro.
So I like using, well, first there's like apps like Delve and My Analytics that watch your email, watch your M365, your calendar. I love that they'll go and say, hey, you're not having enough one-on-one time with this direct employee.
Do you like that? Do you look at that? Do you look at your screen time where you spend the most amount of time?
I absolutely do. I know.
Do you say to yourself, I need to cut back on talking to Jeff?
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Well, more likely I'll say I need to spend more time with this person.
Yeah.
But I also block out meetings for myself, with myself. Like, we spend a lot of time going to meetings, but how often do you ever make a meeting with yourself, like Monday, 3 to 5, figure out what the heck I'm doing here? That should be a meeting.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like setting up a meeting with yourself. The other thing I like to do is I use a tool called Rescue Time.
Rescue Time.
Rescue Time runs in the background of all your machines, looks at the window that's in front, whether it be the tab that's in front or Outlook or whatever web page you're on, and then categorizes it based on your category system about whether or not it is productive, distracting, neutral, very productive, very distracting. And then at the end of the week, it gives you a chart that says, look, you keep finding yourself on Reddit at work every Thursday at 3 o'clock. What is it about Thursday at 3? Because you can't cut what you don't measure.
I love that. I mean, I think that's why I'm sort of a closet data geek.
Oh, yeah.
Because I love that type of analytics. I like to see my analytics and all the productivity tools that Microsoft is coming out with just enhance our lives. Do you like to do?
Actually, I'm really big on to do right now, and I love the way
I love to do.
I love the way. I didn't used to be big on to do. I was actually a kind of a to do hater.
But now the new to do is
it's lovely. So I've actually got to do here. I'm running a beta on my iPhone, and what I like about it is being able to go and see assigned to you, flagged email, tasks, all in one place, and the idea that it's everywhere. Whether it be here, on my Mac, on my Windows machine.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know, I guess the graph is central, right? Like it's everywhere. It used to be to-do.txt, and it was on my desktop, but now it's here.
It's so much easier.
And it took me a while to figure out what the little idea thing at the top was, a little like sparkly idea. That is basically the, hey, here's some suggestions about what you can do today. Because it's stressful to have a giant to-do list.
Very
but it's
stressful.
not stressful to have 3 things that I can do today. So the to-do app, along with Outlook web access, you know, like Outlook on the web, letting you have to-do docked to the side, makes it ever present in my life. And then I can just focus on the 3 things I want to do today, the 3 things that I want to do this week. There's a great friend of mine at Microsoft named J.D. Meyer at gettingresults.com. He had this idea of the rule of 3. Pick a time frame and think about the scope of just 3 things. Like this year, what are your 3 things?
You know, you could say spend more time with my kids, get another job, and
like for me, like learn Spanish, right? Like that's the level of thing. You know, I can't learn Spanish in a week or a month and a year. But then I can say, well, what's a thing I can do today on Monday or Tuesday that's going to move that forward so that the goal at the end of the year is sustainable?
Scott, you know, I don't get to talk to you very often, but before we wrap up, I'm very curious what your feeling is about personal branding. I mean, look, I don't know everybody. I know a lot of people. I've known you for a while. You don't know me as well. tell me, give our
I know
audience.
your shirts, though.
Thank you. Give our audience a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 tips on your personal brand. I mean, I haven't looked, but I recall you having thousands of followers, obviously, and I'm sure you've got thousands of listeners to your podcast. Give our listeners, our viewers, maybe 1 or 2 tips on increasing their personal brand, what they could do tomorrow to improve it.
So I'm not a big fan of that idea, the personal brand.
Okay.
But I do feel that if you have to change yourself or fake it, then you're probably thinking too much about your personal brand.
Okay.
If you focus on your personal, the brand will work itself out. So I kind of have a nice guy personal brand because I am going out of my way to be a nice person. So
Just like spending time with me right now.
you say, oh, you're sweet. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty much the same person now than I was hanging out with you earlier.
Right.
As I am anywhere. Like, it's easier to be consistently you. So if you can be consistently kind and helpful and uplifting to other people in everything that you do, just do that on every platform that you have available to you, and you'll have a positive brand.
I love that. So just to let the audience know, randomly I sat next to Scott in the speaker room, and for whatever reason, Scott was looking at what I was doing on my computer.
I
Totally
glanced
kidding.
casually at your laptop.
And he noticed that there was a little white
This is a bright spot on your LCD.
A bright spot on my LCD. I actually never noticed it. Thank you, not thank you. And Scott happily suggested, hey, Jeff, maybe you should, it's a Lenovo, maybe swap out the screen
Yeah, just
for
the panel.
Right. I never even thought about that. And he suggested, hey, it might cost $50 or something very minor to save the Lenovo. Never would have thought of it. He said it's something that even a non-tech guy like me could probably swap out with a ribbon. That is what Scott's non-personal brand, personal brand is. Randomly helping, a fellow American.
Well, anyone from any country, in fact.
Yes.
I am non-denominational in my helping.
Yeah. Scott, this has been super fun for me. I know we're at ESPC 19. I know you are crazily busy. I appreciate your time. Tell everyone what you actually do at Microsoft, like what your...
What my job is. What exactly is it that you do here?
Yes.
So I manage community for Visual Studio and the developer division. So I have a team of community folks. We do everything from events, both first party and third party, so build and ignite and managing all of our speakers and things like that. I've got folks in my team that do things like live streaming, coding on Twitch at twitch.tv.
That must be why
Studio.
we never hang out, because I'm not a Visual Studio guy. Are you sort of like the John Levesque of...
I don't know who that is.
All right, he's the flow guy.
I'm kind of
He's Mr. Flow.
Do you know who the actor Bruce Campbell is?
People have said that I actually
See?
look like Bruce Campbell.
I'm the Bruce Campbell of programming. And the great thing about that is that there are people who are watching right now, they're like, who the heck is Bruce Campbell? And I'm like, exactly.
Right.
Right, if you know who that person is, you'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. You're like Bruce Campbell, I love that guy. And otherwise you're like, I have no idea who that is at all.
Right.
But my job is to make sure that people who are using Visual Studio, .NET, any of our runtimes are having a great experience. From the moment that they go and Google with Bing for Learn C# to when they go and they finally deploy their application to Azure. My job is to make sure that that experience is smooth.
That is an admirable job. I'm a big community guy, as you could see, this amazing community. So thank you for spending time with me. Super appreciate it. Enjoy your travels. Wow. I'm sure you probably invented the term fire hose, but this has been a fire hose, but yet refreshing for me.
I appreciate it. And everything that we talked about, we can find online as well on my blog.
Where would we find that, Scott?
So if you go to hanselman.com, I've got my list of my podcast. You can go and find all those things about that. If you go to my blog, search for productivity, I've got an entire section on it, as well as videos of all my talks on the subject.
Well, there you have it.
You know what we didn't do? We didn't say yammer enough.
We did not say yammer enough. Yammer. This is Jeff Willinger, special happy hour recording from the European SharePoint Office 365 Azure Conference, not Visual Studio. Sorry, Scott. Signing off, and thank you.